Angus, thanks for joining me.
No worries.
Have to ask, when's your birthday?
25th of August.
Okay, I was going to say you're close. You're close to me.
Yeah, what's
I was
yours?
doing the homework, 21st of August.
Yeah, right. Virgo. Virgo?
Yeah, no, Leo.
I've just missed out.
I was doing the homework and I was like, he's got a birthday around mine because he keeps posting birthday because I did the whole Instagram stalk.
Yeah.
I found this this image of you on Instagram.
Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Dan Rosenberg, yeah, he's we were mates from grade one and still mates. I saw him 2 weeks ago in Sydney. So yeah, he's a good man, Dan. He we used to compete a bit in primary school.
I meant, what would you say to you? But
what would he say to me?
yeah.
Uh
But you can talk about him.
Yeah, no, I mean, Dan and I are still mates. So he's really successful and in his own space, and he's moved to Sydney. And yes, I mean, I think he's still pretty fond of me, I reckon. So yeah, it's good. I saw him a couple of weeks ago. We had brekkie and still catch up. So that was, it's probably, I don't know, 34 years of friendship. So it's good.
Well, what would you say to yourself then?
I was a fairly cheeky kid, and I always got in trouble. And I never did anything really bad, or at least never anything really bad that I got caught for. But I was always in trouble. At primary school, my folks would get called by the principal more often than not. And I reckon my parents, from that age probably to 18, would have had a lot of worries about where I was going to end up. And probably rightly so. But yeah, from primary school, it was always just something. And it wasn't that I was a bad kid. I think I just had, I think I had a lot of energy and sometimes you put those energy into good places and sometimes bad. So but I was a happy kid, for the most part. You probably, when you go through puberty and stuff, you question a few things as a kid, but generally I was a happy kid. I've got fond memories of those years and my high school years.
What were you questioning?
Well, I was a fairly chubby teenager. So when you're 15 and you're a bit awkward and you're trying to, you're learning about girls and maybe there's a party on, maybe you're not invited to that party, you're kind of questioning yourself. So I think teen years, I mean, we're probably, I feel like I'm lucky because we didn't grow up with a lot of social media stuff in your face. Obviously that it's super prevalent right now, and I've got 2 young kids, and I think about that. And so, if you missed out on a party, at least there wasn't 1,000 photos that were sent your way. But I think as a teenager in those middle years when I was a bit overweight and a bit awkward, you just have some days, You
said your parents were questioning
my life, where I was at. Yeah, I mean, I gave my parents a lot of grief. Yeah. I'm as close as ever with them now, but I can remember having huge blues with my folks.
About?
At 14, just fighting, just an angry teenager, being an angry teenager. And so they're, I don't know, I mean, I was a kid who was always in trouble. I went to a private school. They spent a lot of money to put me through that private school and worked really hard. Like we were well off, but not really well off. Like we never really wanted for stuff. But I know that my parents putting me through private school was a big strain on their life. And so I think to have probably me not performing there and to the point where they were getting called by principals there, and I was at school counselling. I had ADD before it was sort of popular. I had to have Ritalin from about year 8 to year 10. So like, there's a lot of things that they had to do to try and keep me, I guess, on the so-called straight and narrow. So I think, I had a good energy about me and I was fairly well liked, but I also got into trouble a lot. So I think that would cause them a bit of grief.
Yeah. Very, very similar upbringings.
Yeah.
I resonate with so much of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It wasn't that you were a bad kid, and you mentioned energy, and it was like you needed to find a way to harness that energy.
Yeah, and I don't know if I ever purposely did. I think I think there was one day when someone said to me as I was sort of about year 12, come and do some weights. Don't, I think I was going off to do some sort of waste of time sport to try and get out of something and come and do weights. And I think probably that was a little bit of a turning point for me. I reckon I was about 17. I found out about weights and looking after yourself and kind of doing things that were better for you and harnessing that energy. So I feel like that was a bit of a turning point. Maybe there's a bit of maturity. I think I probably matured later in high school. And, there's obviously without getting too technical medically, there's a joining of your brain and your rewiring and your wires actually. I believe with ADD, as you get, or ADHD, as you get older and you mature, there are a lot of things that kind of sort themselves out. So I think a little bit of that combining with finding some physical activity that was, that I was passionate about, they were good things for me.
What do you think the main things you were questioning about yourself were?
I wasn't a super deep thinker. I still don't think too deep. Especially like I've got kids now, so like you can't think that deeply when you've got kids. Your purpose is your children. Kind of wake up in the morning. You can't really think about yourself too much. Like obviously I enjoy a lot of things for myself, whether that's sport related or whatever that ends up being. But I think when you're a teenager, you've got a bit of spare time to think and maybe just question. Nothing too serious, but just I'm always in trouble. So that's not a good feeling. When you're always in trouble or you're almost in trouble, that wasn't a good feeling. And it probably took, for my relationship with my parents, like it was strained. But it was always, from all of my memories, a really happy. My upbringing was really happy and good, but it probably just took me to get through those puberty years, through those years of kind of 14, 15, 16. I played a lot of computer games. I went from sort of doing a lot of sport till about 13 years old, and then started playing Counter-Strike. And I just relentlessly played Counter-Strike. And I don't have any regrets about it. It was just part of my world. But I'm glad that there was a point where it kind of like I was able to click and just be like, oh, I don't really need that anymore. And I stopped. So, I guess there are sliding door moments in my world where I think to myself, like I've lost a few mates to suicide or people who've gone down bad paths, and they were my best mates. And so we didn't really have different upbringings. They had pretty happy families and they've kind of gone to this really dark place. That was never me. I managed to find, I think I'm an eternal optimist. So I always trying to find the positivity out of something and find myself in a, in a better headspace rather than not. So I didn't think too deeply.
Did those things happen when you were young?
I lost one of my best mates, a couple of my best mates when I was 20 and 20, maybe 20 and 22.
Yeah.
One of them would have been, at the dinner table of 8 for my 21st, and that throws you because you don't really expect that to happen, and that throws you. I look back on it now and you miss him. I miss him a lot. And I've got a group of Will.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of mates who miss him. We've got a regular catch up yearly with a group of mates for him. And I feel like my friendships with my school friends are still so strong and tight. And I think not a lot of it, but a big part of that is because we lost someone so important to us. And then because of that, we've got that reason to always rally around each other. So, they're pretty, I didn't have a traumatic upbringing or anything sort of, I was a pretty lucky kid. I had, I grew up in Melbourne. I went to a private school. There's a lot of things in my life where people were like, oh, he's lucky. So for sure. But that wasn't lucky. That, there's probably a couple of suicides at 20 and 22 years old that you kind of deal with. And at that age, you're still working yourself out. And when you've got that stuff happening, there's a bit to think about.
You strike me as someone similar to myself that has that obsessive, you find something you like and you just, let's go.
Yeah. I think Elise would tell me, my wife Elise would definitely say that to you. You and I cross paths through real estate. I was kind of lost finishing, just scraping through a degree, and I ended up falling into a career of commercial industrial real estate as a 20, maybe just 22, I think I was.
2008, I think it was.
Yeah. So I've always been passionate about improving, and whether that's through career stuff and or whether that's through my health and fitness, all of those things. There's always been a bit of a passion for improving. You know, I think I've always been lucky that I started in commercial real estate because we don't work weekends, and there's been times on the weekend where I think about work or I do a little bit, but for the most part, I get that really good, clear 2 days, and I love that. But yeah, when I'm midweek, I think a lot about it and how I can improve it. My mentality around real estate's probably, or agency and being an active salesperson has probably changed over the years. You know, it's which has been cool. It's probably been better for business than ever, but you don't know that until you get a bit older, until you've got a bit more behind you to support that attitude changing. And that's probably like for without getting too real estate specific, it my mentality around is my days are just giving good advice, and then with that, transactions and sales and work will come by giving the right advice. And sometimes the right advice means you sort of don't, you don't get a lot out of it. So my mentality's changed about work. I'm not, I try and be home for my kids every night. I'm trying to drop off with them every morning. So I'm not so obsessed that it ruins my life, but I am obsessed with improvement, whether that's home, life, work, health. It's on my mind a lot.
Where do you think that comes from?
I reckon the health thing probably stemmed from those years younger, 17, 18, working. I think I started getting a bit of attention from girls once I started putting some energy into exercise. And so I was like, oh, well, it was like there was a direct correlation of like effort to sort of improvement. So I think that came from that. And then I think with real estate, like, it's working hard and working smart, but I think early on you need to work pretty hard at it. And so I before there was podcasts, I used to have one of those little tapes that you chucked into I had a little Holden Astra as a 22-year-old real estate agent, and I'd put the tape in and connect it to this mini disc player or Discman, so I could play like tapes of sales conferences by American real estate agents. And I used to just listen to that stuff relentlessly. And so I'd get to the office early, read a book about sales or read a book about negotiation or different things about property. And I guess I did probably become fairly obsessed with it in the early days. So, I still every day I probably listen mostly because I'm in the car a bit. I find that the most convenient way to do it, but a kind of improvement thing. So I guess it's never really stopped. But there was definitely a point there in my early days where I don't reckon any of my competitors were doing that. I was just finding a way to listen to, old school sales trainers and for like Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn, these guys were like classic American salespeople, but they had good lessons, like even that sort of those books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, like I think it was written in the 1930s, but still got just good lessons for today.
How would you describe your mindset going into agency in 2008?
Well, it was in Dandenong, so I didn't think it was going to be my end career. So I think with the first few years, I always thought to myself that I was going to be eventually in some corner office in a CBD somewhere. I had a British passport, and I thought maybe I might work overseas. And I think as the years went on, you kind of there's a compounding effect of your effort within real estate and kind of in life in general. There's a compounding benefit to staying at something, sticking at something. So for me, early on, I didn't think at Dandenong selling warehouses was going to be my end game. But as life kind of rolled on, I was like, listen, I get to travel really well. I like who I work with. I'm getting better at it. I was able to sort of set myself up financially better than a lot of the people around me. And I thought, well, this is probably I'm on a good path here. So there are probably different points where I needed kind of like bringing back into line that, that you have low points in real estate. Ben Cooper, who's the managing director of the business, and he kind of became the managing director as I got there. He's about 10 years older than me. He's been a good mentor in that sense of just kind of reminding me to keep bowling line and length. You keep bowling line and length, keep doing the same thing but the right thing, and with that you'll get an outcome. So that's been good. It's I'm 39 now, so I'm coming up to my 18th year there, I reckon, about that, and no regrets. I'm so happy that I stayed. I nearly left, and it's probably a little bit more of me thinking the grass was greener and just having a gut feel to stay, and I hung around, and that's it's been good. Life's been good.
You talked about the obsession or the working hard at the start. Like, what would that look like? And was there a moment, we talked about setting yourself up financially, that you realised, like, wow, like this is something?
Yeah, there's never big, like, I mean, financially, like, I think it's, I've had a couple of really good mentors within the business. Ben Cooper and then his uncle David. David started the business, so David's been like almost a second father to me. He has obviously created a really good business, but he's also invested heavily on the side. And so I first properly caught up with David when I was about 21, and he said, go away and read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in a couple of weeks, which I don't reckon I've ever read a book as quickly, but I read it and it resonated with me. And that probably set me up a little bit in terms of a mindset of creating sort of passive income, because I knew that, real estate is great. You can have a great year in real estate and make yourself a bit of money, but by the time you pay a bit of tax and then you buy that car that you really wanted, you don't end up with a heap. So I always had the mentality that if I can stash away cash or kind of or leverage myself pretty heavily into property early, that was going to help me. So that's been good. Like I've been able to kind of like really dive into real estate, and that the income associated with real estate is excellent when you're going well. And then I've been able to divert those kind of those good years into passive income, and so I mean, I'm not sure if that really answers your question, but I kind of that's in terms of those early days, that was a lot of my mentality, was kind of the thought process around Rich Dad, Poor Dad, building passive income. I used to read property investor books or magazines. I'd go to the airport or I'd go to the news agency and I'd buy property investor magazines and upskill myself, whether it was tax related or whether it was property related or kind of understanding property. That there was an obsession on the side with that. And then real estate wise, it was tapes, it was sort of conferences, and kind of when I wasn't busy enough, because when you're 23 in real estate, you're quiet. You kind of you're chasing stuff rather than people chasing you. You're chasing things to try and get them, but you run out of things to do. There's only so many people you can kind of call and cold call, and you kind of get to dead ends. So when I wasn't doing something that was transaction based, I was trying to learn, so that when I had that next conversation that was pivotal, I'd heard what I needed to say and I was geared up with what I needed to say in that instance. How
instrumental do you think that sort of stuff is for young guys out there?
Oh, so important. I mean, it's so easy now. Like it's right now, you jump onto Spotify, you type in like real estate scripts or, the old school thing, like scripts and dialogues. Like that used to get drilled into me, 18 years ago. Now you can just find it in 30 seconds on Spotify. I used to have to like rip CDs and have like 3 devices in my car so that I could hear it when I was there, or read a book, and I'd have to find a way to get the book because it was only sold somewhere randomly. So it's easier than ever now. I think right now probably it's so easy to overwhelm yourself with information now. If you were, let's say I was talking to a young real estate agent, it's so easy to overwhelm yourself with knowledge now. You kind of got there's an action element. You need to take action as well. It's not just, you can't just listen relentlessly and have all these ideas and lay in your bed all day. There's an action element now to it. So maybe there's too much information potentially. It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify, it's on Instagram, it's everywhere. So, but the lessons are the same. The stuff is the same. It's a long game thing, real estate.
I saw that photo.
Yeah.
First auction.
My first auction.
Yeah.
Phil DeFagley taught me how to be an auctioneer. I jumped on that pretty early. I was probably a year into my career, and the Real Estate Institute of Victoria ran an auctioneering competition, and quite a few of the guys that I met in that instance still auction, still work in real estate today, and we're still friends from that sort of initial. But Phil's a gun auctioneer, so thanks, Phil. I still remember, some of the things a lot of the things that I do when I call an auction, and I don't call heaps because of mostly selling industrial real estate. There's not as much requirement for auctions and auctioneers, but I still do one a month. And a lot of the things I do today, I still think of Phil. Ben Cooper is a really good auctioneer, and then Phil gave me these awesome lessons. So that was good fun. I probably did 3 years of this auction competition as a novice before I unloaded into my first. I might have been 25 in that photo, I reckon, maybe.
The workload and everything, you mentioned you chasing people at 23. Was there a turning point? Can you remember a turning point where you were like, things are starting to come to me? And what did the actual workload, like from an hour's perspective, what were you doing in those early days?
Yeah, I mentioned before it was Monday to Friday that, really I kind of got to the weekend and as a guy in his young 20s, I had friends at uni. I still enjoy myself. I made sure that I had that. And so, I got a lot of the kind of things you do as a younger kid out of my system while I was at uni, which was great, and a bit of travel, and kind of continue to travel. So my younger days in real estate were still very much Monday to Friday, which still they are today, and I'm thankful for that. But my days normally started early in some format. Like I was kind of in the office, or I was reading something from kind of 7 o'clock-ish, 7 a.m., 7:30. I think if you're I remember reading or listening to something that said, like a career. I think any career, but a real estate career especially, you're kind of like an aeroplane trying to get off the ground, and you've got to have all your thrusters on. So I think once you're up at altitude, and I would say I'm at altitude now. Like I feel like, I'm very much I'm good at managing things. I know where I put my time. I know where that's where I can be most productive. But I think in your early years, you're scattergun. You're kind of like, so you've got to be there a lot. So, I mean, I sort of made sure I was always in early. I worked relatively late, but I was never in the office beyond 7. It just that I wanted to train, or I wanted to do sport or something like that. So my evenings would often have like some form of training or playing something competitive with some friends. So I think like you can't be working 14 hours a day and think that that's sustainable. I don't think it is sustainable. I think what I managed was to be kind of like 7:30 to kind of 5:36, and that was good. I feel like that was a lot. But when I was driving home, I was listening to a podcast. If I was at the gym and I was on my own, I was listening to something. I had something going through my mind that I feel like there was a lot of contact hours with improvement.
That I was going to say that dedication to improvement.
Yeah. But like I didn't know that this was going to be what I was going to finish up with. But I think if you fast forward 15 years, without too many big things changing, like I'll probably still be doing what I do. I love what I do. There are hard days in real estate, but generally I love what I do. And I think to your question about when did it turn, when did things start coming to you? To be frank, I still chase stuff. I think you've got to still chase stuff. So yes, I've got more freedom. Yes, I've got some incredible loyalty with people that I've dealt with for now 12, 14, 15 years, where they just have this trust. Like I tell you, one of the best things I hear, and I hear it most days now, is you just do what you think. And when you start your real estate career, there's so much convincing. You're constantly with a white line fever, chasing that outcome. And as you get better at it, and as you get, and there's, I guess the word is plentiful, as your career becomes more established, you're able to give advice that is the best advice for the client, but then maybe that doesn't fill your pockets up immediately, you know. And so when you're in your early days of your career, you're kind of chasing things, you piss people off. You know, I remember getting abused, just yelled at, because like I had done the wrong thing by someone, and in turn he knew that, and he just tore me to shreds. I would have been 24. I remember it. I was out the front of this apartment that I owned in Armidale in Mercer Road, and I was just getting absolutely verbally just
abused.
Torn apart.
Yeah, yeah.
And I probably deserved it.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. So now, you know, things do come to me, but I still got to chase it. You know, you still got to chase it. You still got to be hungry. I still speak to the guys in the office, and because I think sometimes, whether it's externally or internally, someone probably thinks that like, oh, I've got that pretty easily. Like, how's he got that listing? You know, how'd that come about? And I'm like, hey, this is the trail of like how I got to this.
Yeah.
This is how long I've been doing this for.
Yeah.
With this particular person. This is the stuff I've done for them over the years.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how we ended up here. Like, yeah, it looks pretty easy. Like, yeah, I didn't have to pitch on it. Like, I just got work.
Yeah, yeah.
But I pitched for 10 years. So, yeah, it comes, but you got to still chase. You know, I'm still hungry. You know, I still have relentless attention to detail. Elise will probably say at home the attention to detail is too high, and probably so do a few of my mates. But I think you need to have good attention to detail. You know, like real estate is a game of you know, like doing things right and kind of consistently. And so I think success is at least in my opinion, you know, a lot of successful people are relentlessly
They notice the small things.
Notice the small things. They you know, like they've kind of done it all. You know, like they don't let things go. They're specific. And they're consistently like that. So whether, you know, I remember like I drove a Holden Astra for my first car.
Is that the white one?
No, that was a Golf. That was a Golf when I started. That's when I thought I was starting to make it there with my Golf R.
Yeah, yeah.
That goes against the rich dad, poor dad theory, you know, buying a car that you probably can't afford. But I still do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I forget where I was going with that. But I think...
Sorry, cut you off.
Yeah, it's all right. No, with the Astra, like, it wasn't a nice car. Like, it was cheap. It just went... But it was always clean, you know, like I think, yes, again, like just stuff I've read over the years, but like if you turn up to an inspection or turn up to a listing or you turn up to anything, right, and if your car's full of shit and your wheels are dirty and it's covered in cobwebs, what's the rest of your work life like? What's the rest of your life like? You know, it's not, that's just bullshit. Like I think I used to get out of the car and I remember wearing Peter Jackson suits. Like that dad had bought me for my first job, but they were always clean. My shirt was always pressed. And, you know, whether it was being clean shaven, whether it was your hair being presentable, I just always had this mentality as kind of like, not a fake it till you make it, but just like, just do the best of what you got, you know? And that was clean cars, that was clean shoes, you know, the stuff that when you get out of the car, I just reckon, you know, again, like someone said something to me early days and it was like someone's made their mind up. Before you've opened your mouth, they are 80% there about whether or not they want to continue dealing with you. And so I think if you get out and you're 80% of the way there because everything else is kind of good, like that's awesome. You know, like you're nearly there. But if you've got cobwebs on your car, like I was always like, that's just a big sign of like not having your shit together.
Have you heard Jordan Peterson say, if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed?
Yeah. And I say it to my kids. I'm like, kids, get up, let's make the beds, open your shutters. Like, you know, hopefully I drill good things in them. You know, my folks are always, you know, keen on good presentation. And
making me feel bad, mate.
Yeah. No, you can do whatever you want. Like, but you're not selling real estate anymore.
Yeah.
But
I still fully believe with what you say though.
Yeah. Make your bed in the morning. You know, it's a sense of achievement. You've done something. You know,
it's like, more just like when people look at you, they're like, okay, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah. Or I'm interested. You know, like I think like a lot of guys. John McGrath wrote a book. You Inc. was a good book. John McGrath wrote a book, and without being word for word, he was basically said, if you're good enough, if you're good enough, you're old enough, you know? So I had that mentality. Like, I think as a young real estate agent, if you got heaps of passion and drive or anything, young entrepreneur, and someone older sees that in you, they want to give you a chance because you're young. They actually see a bit of themselves in you and they want to give you a chance. So I sort of, in my early days of my career, made sure that I presented myself in a way that someone who was older but entrepreneurial was happy to give me a crack over one of my older competitors.
You mentioned you were pulled into line a few times. Aside from that guy abusing you, are there any other mistakes that helped pave the way to the agent you are today? Because I can't believe the similarities I have in just my early upbringing with getting in trouble, getting pulled into line, making heaps of mistakes in agency. And there are a few that I can think of that I'm so glad they happened, but they only happened as a result of my behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's heaps of stuff along the way. Like, I don't have anything super specific. Yeah. I mean, I do remember that the one moment which I mentioned, but it's just a long game, you know? Like, I feel like you want to just always play that long game. You know, if I could somehow drill into younger guys how important that is to do the right thing.
So you're saying that you try to these days, but it's hard
to try and encourage people with it. Yeah. I mean, everyone wants stuff quickly, you know. And David Cooper wrote a note on my Christmas card when I was like 23. He's like, you know, I love your passion, but just remember Rome's not built in a day, you know. And it's true, right? Like, it is a really long game. You know, people ask me about getting into real estate, and that can be a peer who's my age, so they might be in their late 30s or early 40s. It's a hard game to get into at that age. It's not impossible, but it's hard because you've got family potentially. You've potentially got debts that need to be serviced. They could be home debts, or they could be cars, or whatever they end up being. When you're 21, 22, and you're getting into real estate, like if you're lucky, you're living at home, and you're able to start your career without too many financial obligations. So I think for those young guys starting when you're in your early 20s, you know, like for sure, like, get hungry, have white line fever, but make sure you have in the back of your mind that it is a long game. You know, like, play that long game with the people you deal with, because, you know, it does come around and bite you if you don't.
Especially if you're in a little pocket in which you're in, I suspect. I know that you guys operate in pockets. I've had a few moments in my time where I've had people, you know, give me an earful, and sometimes deserved, sometimes not. I mean, there's fiery people in our game. There's big personalities, and you know, there's a lot of Italians. Italians are red-blooded. You know, if they've got you in the gun, they've got you in the gun. So sometimes you just got to cop it. So I still cop it, not too much, but like sometimes it's a heated game. It's probably not one for the faint-hearted. I think you know, you need to have, there's a resilience and thick skin that's required. You know, that's something that you can kind of work on. But I think there's something there that you've got. Have you noticed anything that you knew you had when you were in the early days that agents that you work with today, the young guys, have? Because the world is such a different place.
Yeah.
Like, do you look at some? I mean,
my mum was my mum was a nurse, and then she went into advertising sales. So, like, you know, I'm really going back here now, but but mum instilled a lot of good things in me early on. She'd always be trying to upsell me dessert or something from whether it was in the kitchen or something like that, or trying to tell me that something was really nice, but she was just a natural salesperson, mum. So I don't know how that came through to me, but then all of a sudden there was an opportunity to win a quite a large stereo when I was in grade 3 at my primary school, and you had to sell as many Maltesers and M&Ms as you could over, call it a 4-week period. And so I rolled up to the local train station, and I don't know if I quite triggered at the time, but I thought people would be coming home from work hungry. So after school, I'd go up there with boxes of M&Ms. Smart. And I had like more than tripled my person who came second at my primary school. And I just sat at the train station between 3:45 and 5:30 as a 8 or 9-year-old selling chocolate. And I got my stereo. And then I won the next 3 years. So I just got good at that, and like that wasn't a really hard sell. People coming home with low blood sugar eating Maltesers, that's pretty easy. But I think I probably look back and there was a lot of things that I learned early. Like I think to myself now as a parent, I want my kids to have employment early. I mean, school is important, but I think having exposure to employment early is good. I went from Maltesers to delivering chemist prescriptions on my bike. And I
did that as well.
Yeah, and so that was at about 11 years old, and I would roll around the streets of kind of Paran and Armidale delivering chemist prescriptions to old ladies. And then I started getting tips, and I started working out like, if I was extra happy and extra smiley and I waited at the door a little longer, they'd give me a few gold coins on my way out. So my $10 an hour turned into about $10 for the hour turned into normally about $20 or $22. And all of a sudden, as an 11-year-old, I was making, $100 a week. That was awesome. And so I think that taste of reward for effort started there. It started with my mum. It started with the stereo, and I kind of always through my high school years had employment. And so before I'd even got to the age of 21, 22, when I'd started in real estate, I'd worked at Woolworths. I'd worked at a burger store. I'd sold jeans. I'd worked in catering. I mean, I worked at Woolworths or Safeway back then on the front checkout. I was a checkout chick. I worked at Woolworths for probably 4 years. And so it means you've got to interact with people a lot. You've got to learn how to talk to people.
100%.
I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be playing Counter-Strike instead of being at Safeway. I'd go home on lunch breaks. I had a half an hour lunch break and I'd find a way to get home in 5 minutes, play 20 minutes of Counter-Strike and come back and somehow have some food. But I also love the money. I love that I could buy things with my effort or I could get what I wanted. So I think by the time I was 22, I'd had 12 years of or 11 years of previous experience in dealing with people, talking to people that I didn't know, and I think that's like for me, like my kids grow up now. My kids grow up better than I did in some ways. They've got a pool. I've got those nice cars in theirs, but I still want to try and keep them grounded. So for me, like I think one of the bigger things I'll do is make sure they've got employment early and they kind of learn that value.
Yeah,
money.
You don't realise how important it is when you look back on it. Because my mum pushed me to go to Macca's the day I was 16.
Yeah.
Got that job there, didn't last, and went straight to pool lifeguarding. And pool lifeguarding, you are paid essentially to be a communicator.
Yeah.
Because pool lifeguarding is 99% communication.
Yeah.
Because you can't, it's 99% prevention, 1% action. That's what they said.
Yeah.
So you're going up to people, you're building relationships. You don't realise how, I just thought of that just then.
Yeah.
You don't realise how important, even just the notion that there's regular customers and you're building up relationships with them and you're understanding small things about them. I'm assuming that would have been something that you dealt with, I suspect.
Yeah, for sure.
That relationship building, essentially.
There's just good years of learning.
Yeah,
good years of learning before I knew.
Yeah.
I remember like a few mums of mates of mine during high school years, they'd say things like, oh, look, Angus, or maybe they said it to my parents, but like he's either going to end up in jail or he's going to be a millionaire. They used to say things like that. So like I've managed to find a way to direct my attention into something good. Into something good,
Yeah, of course.
Maybe not quite, but yeah. So I guess, I guess to the younger kids, like, when I was 22, I wanted everything tomorrow as well, or today, like this, I think, people love to rag on the younger kids. I mean, there's a young guy who works with me, Tom Langley, and he's awesome. He's happy to hear things as they are. I don't need to pander to him. He listens. He's a really good, loyal kid, and he's growing up into being he's going to be a really good real estate agent. So, people love to say that the young generation don't quite get it. I'm sure there are plenty of things they don't quite get because it has been easier in a lot of ways. But there are still great kids out there, and we've got them in our business that they, they're good, they listen, and, hopefully they can all become successful in their own rights, whether it's staying with us or in some other entrepreneurial facet.
You mentioned before you didn't see what went into, or the years that went into actually getting a client and building the trust with them. And I see what you're doing now as the exact same way, but your life essentially. Like, people say that you're a good agent, and they don't see the years that went into it.
Yeah, I mean, when I say to someone I've made 200 calls today, I've either made or taken 200 calls in a day. And a lot of those calls are organisational calls. I'm trying to put something together, but it's still 200 phone calls. People walk to my office and they go to speak to me and they always have to wait because I'm always on the phone. And so it doesn't stop, like you kind of, and real estate's, I reckon it is a bit of a young man's game. Like, you've got to be fired up, you've got to be passionate, you've got to be hungry. If you're, when I say it's a young man's game, it's a younger man's game, and a younger man, woman's game. I say young man, I mean young man or women's game. But it is definitely something that, as someone between the age of 20 and 50, if you put your mind to it, you can make more money than nearly any other sort of at least paid job, for example. A good real estate agent can write $2 and $3 million for their business and probably take home about half that. So there's not too many jobs that pay that sort of money, and these people fly under the radar. They aren't CFOs of large businesses. They're not scrutinised. They're not, as long as they do the right thing and they're successful and they kind of keep their client base, there are people who write beyond that. And so, but at the same time, there's a lot who don't. And so people fall out of the industry. Like, I think the attrition rate, for people in there at 3 and 4 years, and obviously you've had a moment of time in there and you found it's definitely something you need to be 100% into, right? If you're distracted and you've got something different going on, and clearly, like, from your end, you kind of had these two paths and you've got this sliding door moment, which one do I go down? But you can't be half in.
No.
Yeah, so, but if you're 100% in and you're good at it, like, the world's your oyster. Like, it's awesome. Yeah,
that's why I like talking to you. I use the word sort of tried to describe a similar thing before about the flying under the radar. Like, there are so many killer real estate agents out there that are just like on another level. Yeah. That if they were probably put into an organisation like that and became a CFO or CEO, they would absolutely kill. Yeah. I mean, my days are my own. Like, I'm sort of not accountable to anyone else except getting a good outcome for the people who I work for. Like, I mean, now being a business owner as well as part of that. But I think if you ask Ben or Dave in the business, they'll comfortably say that I do not weigh in too much into sort of micro stuff within the business. Like, I come up with good ideas and sort of see them through and implemented, but I don't think I could run a real estate business. So that was like, there are a lot of people out there who work in large corporate businesses who we compete with who get disgruntled by that corporate nature and think, I'm going to start my own thing. And that's hard work. I think starting something from scratch is hard work. I don't know if I could do it that easily. Like, I'm probably pretty fortunate that I've managed to be in a business that I've stuck at. And then with that, they'd offered me the opportunity to buy equity within that business. But the wheels were already spinning in the business. There was already a finance team. There was already a property management side of the business. Like, there's already kind of like established people in that business that have been there a long time when I got there. So I actually, like, while I bought into the business and yes, there's a cost to buy in, so you have to kind of pay for that previous goodwill. It's been good for me. That's been good for me. What do you think they would have seen in you?
I know David was a big supporter of me. David's into his mid-70s now, and I've sort of referred to him as David Cooper.
I sold a property.
Yeah. So he's been a big supporter of mine for a long time. and I treat him and look to him as sort of a father figure. Obviously I've got a father, so a sort of secondary father figure. But his advice from a business perspective, he doesn't always give the best advice, but his advice from a business perspective for me and his mentorship's been huge. So he was probably a big supporter. I mean, in those days when I probably bought into the business maybe 10 or 11 years ago, there probably would have been people in the business who weren't supportive of that.
Why?
I was probably still a bit of a smart ass. I probably still was able to kind of piss people off. And
Is that because you were too good? You're good?
No, not good. I guess you kind of you getting to a point of success. There's going to be people who get in your way a little bit, and 100%. So you got to kind of you always got to try and treat people as well as you can along the way through. But you aren't going to make everybody. You're not going to make everyone happy on the way through to success.
100%.
So, and I use the word success because I'm not there, but to get there are a few people that you might piss off on the way through. So, but I think David was a big supporter of that. They sort of knew that if I didn't look to buy into the business at that point in time, that I was probably going to leave. And that wasn't me holding that over them, but like I just had that in my mindset that maybe I've got bigger and better things to do. Maybe this is kind of a stepping stone in my career. So, but Dave was a good supporter of me, and I think wholeheartedly he backed me into that, and it's been good. So, I probably did 8 years at a real estate business before I bought into it, 7 or 8 years before I bought into it, and I think a good business with a good operator should allow a performing agent to buy equity in it. I think it's been great for me, and otherwise you'll lose good operators. So for us, like since I've now been a director in the business, we've kind of had, I think we probably had 4 people come in to the business as equity and shareholders. It's awesome. I love who I work with. You hear about business partnerships that start from scratch and they blow up 12 months later. It's just 2 people and they manage to blow it up. So the good thing about our business is that anyone who's bought into the business, we've known who they were because we've worked with them 5, 6, 7, 8 years already. They know who we are, right? So when I was buying into the business, that was a big leap. I had to take on a lot of debt to do that, and kind of that was a big leap. But I knew who I was getting into business with. Like they'd proven themselves over and over, and vice versa. They probably knew, albeit I had a few edges to me. They knew who I was too. So, and I think if you ask them, they'd probably be saying it's been pretty fruitful, and vice versa.
According to my research, you posted the photo that you became a director on the 23rd of September in 2014.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So it was director the ownership.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the caption was exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
You posted the business card.
This is sort of like, I used to get my own business cards made. So I was in the business and everyone had the title sales and leasing executive. I'm like, I want a better title than that. And Ben used to be like, you don't need it. And I'm like, no, I want like something more important. Like I want more important. So I used to get my own, business cards made. Like I used to just order them and they'd turn up.
There we go.
So that's probably, that was a real one. That was the real deal.
But
before that, like I always wanted, like I think I've got my degree on the end of my name there.
B-bus.
Which I managed just to sneak, as in, but I was like, I want my degree on there and I wanted a better title. So yeah, that was legit though. That was, I've bought some shares in it. I'm an owner now. So, and I've grown that over the years and it's been good. Yeah, it's been cool. It's been a good journey.
You pinch yourself?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, like people ask how you're going and I say I'm going pretty good. Like things are pretty good right now. My family life's great. I've got 2 healthy, happy kids. They're 7 and 5, so we're kind of through the thick of it. And it's not easy. Sometimes, like, it's not all. It's I think the mentality I've had is it's easy to take the bad road. Whether that's in a relationship or within a career or whether that's not getting up in the morning early enough to train. It's easy to lie in bed. People say like, oh, you must be a morning person. I'm not a morning person. I just get up. I'm tired just like everyone else is when they get up at 5 a.m. It takes a lot of energy. You know, I don't drink heaps. I drink a bit, but I don't finish, nights at 4 a.m. I haven't done that for 15 years.
No need. I was doing that late night, and it you become like a shell of yourself.
Yeah. How can you be productive if you've done that? And maybe you can when you're in your early to mid 20s because you've got that extra bit of energy and resilience. But I'm pretty focused. I eat well. I try and train positively. I try and make sure that I spend time with people who have always lifted me up. People love to say that, surround yourself with this and that, but you've got to be active at it. And that doesn't mean that I'm very conscious of not spending time with people for the sake of it. I try and spend time with good people who lift you up. And I've done that for 20 years, and I've ate well for 20 years, and so I feel like I've done all of these things, and there's a compounding element to it. So it's sometimes I don't think too deep about it. Do I wake up and go, oh, I'm so lucky? Like, of course I'm lucky, but I don't think too deep about it. But it's been a good journey so far.
It's funny those looking back on things when you're in the middle of it, because I'm sort of experiencing it now. Like, I get so many people say, like, you look back on the past 6 months, like, look how far you've come. But when you're on
the grind.
Yeah, but when you're in the grind and you are growing and you are striving to do better, it's hard to look back and say, oh yeah, I'm so lucky that I've changed.
Yeah. I mean, still the same guy.
100%.
But I'm a little bit better at
getting what
I still speak my mind, but I'm a little bit better and a bit smarter than I was 20 years ago. And
hope so.
Yeah. But life's good. It's good at the moment.
You mentioned flying under the radar before. You mentioned the fees, some of the agents. Are you comfortable talking about some of your better years?
Yeah. I mean, look, we've got a really solid business where I've sort of managed to be in that top couple of operators for the last 10 years in the business, thereabouts. And if there's probably, probably 3 or 4 agents in our business that would write consistently, in around that sort of $2 million to $3 million mark. So, as a fee within the business plus having equity in the business, it is really good. I sort of got to about 5-6 years ago. I was writing about $1.6 million, and I thought, I don't think I'll ever write more than that. And
were you burning out, or was just?
No, I just thought that like my capacity was. I was like, oh, that was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good. And then I wrote 2, and then I wrote 2 and a bit, and then so all of a sudden, like, you're kind of writing towards $3 million, and I haven't really done much different. I
was literally about to ask: is there a difference between workload? Would you say you're working the same or even less to write 3, or? Yeah,
the last few years, I've definitely gotten. I don't chase doing deals with Amazon. I don't chase doing those sort of deals. It's sort of I know there are people in the industry who are better at that. Yeah. I find my sweet spot has been kind of the factories between the size of on a price point of view, probably between $3 and $15 million, $3 and $20 mil. They're good. Like, a few years ago I sold a block of land for $180 million. I don't chase that, right? Like that's not my, that's like the unicorn, and I don't focus on it, right? I would do 10 to 12 transactions a month that I'm involved with. And some of those fees are small. And some of my competitors probably would scoff at them. But when you're doing 10 to 12 and you do them every month, it's pretty cool. So, like if I do a $15 or a $25 million sale here and there, they're kind of, they're great, but they're not that important. Like for me, the important stuff's like, 5 to 10 mil factory leases where they're like, so what people might not know who aren't familiar with what I do day to day is like I probably spend half of my time selling and half of my time leasing. With industrial real estate, there's not often a separation between selling or leasing for the most part, people sell and lease together. Most of my competitors would do that as well. I think that stems from the fact that a lot of like industrial real estate, people would develop these buildings and they would put them up for sale or for lease. And if whatever outcome kind of came first, they would do. So it kind of stems from that. So as a business, we manage, we've got a significant management business of private investors who might have a factory that returns $200,000 a year. And we manage that on their behalf and kind of nurture that. And that's great for us. Bringing in a factory as a management that returns $200,000 a year is just our sweet spot. Like, you know, that's awesome. But then some people get to retirement age and they go, I want to realise that asset. So they end up selling it. So we're kind of doing a bit of both. So I probably spend half of my time in selling and half of my time in leasing. So, but yeah, my sweet spot's that, you know, it's not the biggest deal. I don't want to do the deal with Bunnings or Amazon. I don't chase those huge deals. I really like that stuff that we can manage as a business and that we build relationships with privates. I love dealing with privates. I love meeting someone who runs a business and I deal with them. I don't deal with their representative or their CFO or whatever. I deal with the person who runs the business. And for me, that's awesome because you build rapport with them. And you know, likewise with private developer investors, like I just deal with them. You know, I'm not dealing, I do work with property funds here and there, but I really like dealing with the people who are controlling it and who've got the money.
I've still got nightmares over that $180 million one.
Yeah. It's a good one.
I was chasing that.
Can't
one.
get them all. You can't get every kick on the footy field.
I was chasing that one super hard.
So yeah, it's you know, I'm very lucky that I'm in a fruitful business that has a brand position in our market that's really strong. And we have loyalty for people who've dealt with our business for 30 plus years. Now, I wasn't there for that 30 plus years, but if I've dealt with someone for the last 10 or 15, like it's really hard for our competitors to infiltrate that relationship. You know, you have to do something really wrong for me to miss something that we've managed and looked after for such a long time.
What would be your advice to that 20 to 25-year-old that wants things quick and they're probably in that zone that you were in when you were 23 where things aren't coming to them? That's sort of like, I think that phase makes or breaks you as an agent, because I did make it through that period. But to get it to like the level that you are, you just need to be in the game for, from what it seems, a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that number's 10 years, and I don't want to just like have this sort of arbitrage number of how many years it takes to be successful in it, because equally there'll be people who have achieved it before and plenty of people have been in it for 20 and kind of never found their mark. But I think your first 3 or 4 years, if you're in the right business and you've got the right people with you, you know, that is your apprenticeship. You know, you're not making a heap of money. If you're managing to get a salary that's, you know, 70 grand, that's probably pretty good. You know, I mean, I understand there's inflation, but my first salary was about 35,000. And I think I managed to make a bonus of about 4 or 5 in my first year. And I didn't make much more than that for my first 2 or 3 years. So that's why if you can start it young and find it young, that's awesome because you've got less pressure. You know, I think back to the saying of bowling line and length. You know, you've got to surround yourself with good people. You've got to listen to good things so that when you do get that opportunity to be on the phone with someone, you're not guessing your way through it because you've heard it, you've listened to it. I actually think I used to record myself speaking about objections that people used to have. As I think about it now, I remember like tape recording myself talking about an objection after I'd listened to it on a podcast. And then like a week later, I remember thinking to myself, I'm getting that objection right now. I need to use that line. You know, and line sounds a bit cheesy because it shouldn't be so choreographed. But when you're 22, if you don't have a plan, like you're kind of nowhere. So you kind of need to have a plan. You need to have things written down. You need to make phone calls that are purposeful. So that might mean before I make this important phone call, I'm going to write about the things that I need to kind of speak about so that they're fresh in my mind, so that you're not, so that you don't look as inexperienced as you probably are. You know, you probably look like you're better than you are. But sometimes, you know, obviously in those early years, like you're probably not. So, you know, I think industrial real estate wasn't popular when I started. So it's more popular now. A lot of my peers want to talk about it. And, you know, I started an Instagram with the intention of kind of just getting out a little bit more about what I do. And and maybe just a bit more kind of just evidence and proof of what I do daily, so that when you are chasing that listing, there's a bit more proof behind it. So I think that stuff's good, and kind of leveraging off like your office's deals and stuff like that. I think that's really important. I think I think that side of things is awesome. And then probably as you start making some money, just make sure you're putting it, take that rich dad, poor dad theory, start putting it into some passive property. Whether that's initially you might be just buying your own home. Some people might say, don't buy your own home, rent it for a bit and kind of buy real estate. But I think have that mentality that you're going to have some really good earning years in real estate, but you want to make sure you're turning that into something. I was probably 27 when I bought a block of land and did my first industrial development. I was fortunate enough to have bought a home young and then sold that and bought another, and was able to sort of leverage against that to go and do this development. And I completely had my balls on the line, but I was 28, I didn't have kids. I don't think I was engaged, but Lisa and I were obviously, I wasn't engaged, but we were together. But taking some risks while you're young in that stuff, like you want to get as much of that. It's probably, I think I probably would lie awake once a week. Yeah, I think you want to lie awake once a week when you're in your 20s. If you're not lying awake in the middle of the night in your 20s, I like to sleep a bit better now.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like I need to pull the eye mask over me and just fall asleep now. But I think in your 20s, you probably want to lie awake once a week with some ideas and thoughts and things that maybe cause you a bit of stress, because they're good times to be stressed.
Yeah. That was me 7 days a week.
Yeah. But
when I was building this,
yeah, you're doing too much. Well, or spread a bit thin maybe. But so there's some stressful moments, but then it's been great. I kind of have able to kind of go from one to the other to the next, and in my mind, my real estate career is something that I feel like I'm going to be at my best. Probably for the last 10 years and probably for the next 10 and a bit, but having passive income and kind of building on that is it's amazing.
From my perspective, it seems as though you have like all you want or all you need in life. But are you still wanting more?
I probably don't need much more. I'd love my golf handicap to be a bit lower. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I've always loved cars, and I've managed to buy a dream car of mine. I live in a happy family home that's going really well. So there's not a lot more you need. Like I can park my car off street in Melbourne. That's nice. And so that doesn't mean that I've lost my hunger, but I'm not completely like strung out striving for something else. Like I think having good friends, good family, keeping that thing close is the most important. I don't think like as you look back, whether it's a sports car or whatever, no one would ever go, that was the most important thing. Like the stuff you'll think about as like how did I go well here? When you're into your latter years of your life, it'll be you'll think about your family and you'll think about your peers and who they were. So like I still like great things. I still like shiny things. Like that boy that was 11, buying or getting the stereo or whatever it was, that's still in me, still the same. That doesn't change. But I don't think I'm missing out on anything. There's nothing that I'm missing out on.
Do you think the 25-year-old version of you would have said what you just said?
Yeah, you mature. Yeah, for sure. You mature and you work out what's more important and what's important. But I can't want for too much more. I think my peers would say, and a lot of my peers would look to me and go, they look like I've got it sorted, and I feel like I've got it sorted. So not every day, but for the most part, you feel like you got it sorted.
I'm in a position where I worry that it'll never be enough.
Yeah, I mean, you're on a new journey. You're kind of in the infancy. You're in first gear. of doing what you're doing, and so hopefully you progress into second and third and fourth gear, and that mentality might change a bit. But I mean, I think right now you're striving for, through this kind of new venture, there's not a lot of history of doing what you're doing, because whether it's YouTube or podcasting and stuff like that, it's not like you can refer to books that are 50 years old that talk about how people were doing that, right? You're kind of like, there's a lot of you're guessing your way through it. You're working out what you put on your thumbnail to make on the YouTube so that people want to listen to it. There's a little bit of a lesson, but there's not years of lessons, right? So I think when you progress out of first gear into second and third gear with what you're doing, and hopefully that's sort of where you get to with this, that you'll probably find that you find a happy medium. Whether it's in real estate and you work out you don't want to list everything. You want to list the things that are kind of in your space. Well, that might be with what you do, that you work out who you talk to. You work out how you spend your time. You work out the things that are cost productive and financially productive for you. And then there'll be things that you're like, this is just a waste of my time.
I'm already getting that.
And it gives me the shits.
So
I get this you get that out of your life.
Yeah. I'm already getting to that point, which is good. Because I've just taken on so many things over the years. But no, definitely having, I did a video last Monday that just hit 85,000 views and it's had over 300 days of watch time in 8 days.
Yeah, right.
In a week.
So, I can't relate to that. But obviously, I'm looking at you smiling, and clearly you're like, I'm achieving here, That's big, So I can't sit there and go, I know what that means. I actually have got no idea. But if you're smiling, and I reckon it's the third time you've told me about this since we were chatting over the week. That's awesome. So these are cool milestones, and all of a sudden, it'd be like writing $1 million in real estate. I remember I got to $1 million. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then all of a sudden you'll have tripled that hours in 2 or 3 months' time, and you'll be like, oh, that's my new benchmark.
It reminds me of what you said before about things happening quickly, but they don't see what's gone in. Like the people that see me in 5 years that say I got lucky, they won't see what's happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's luck elements to everyone's success. There's definitely luck elements to my success. Like he was speaking to that person on the day rather than someone else. It's going down the career. I was doing a business degree, going down the path of commercial real estate, and sort of landing in Dandenong at the time. That I probably thought that wasn't that lucky, but then it turns lucky. So yeah, I think not a lot of people do see what goes in to what you do, or how I started what I do. So. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't worry about it too much, just as long as you're feeling good about it. You'll find there's a point, there's enough. You'll go, this is cool. That might be property-related milestones. That might be viewership-related milestones. Whatever that ends up being. Like investment stuff, that you might get exposed to some really cool investment-related things like business and entrepreneurial or tech stuff that I don't see at all. But because of the space you're in, you all of a sudden go down this other cool avenue. So yeah, it's good stuff.
How did being a dad change your life?
I think I said a lot in my real estate career. I've just become a dad. I feel like that built a bit of trust in my real estate career. But in terms of my life, it's fucking hard. Yeah, it's hard.
Is that from a personal or just a how much you got to take on?
Yeah, I mean, again, my peers would say that I managed to get a pretty good run with extracurricular activities that don't involve parenting. And whether that's playing some golf or going cycling or doing stuff like that, they would definitely say, but parenting's hard. I got home last night and it's just a shit show. And then you end up kind of yelling at each other. So it's there's for sure there's rewarding moments. Like I saw my kids ski this year in July, and watching them going from being blobs to being kids who could ski, that is a proper dad moment. You're like, this is cool. This is so cool.
I think you said we live in our kid memories, but this will live in ours. That's a sort of quote you were saying.
I feel like I just try and do things with them that I think to myself, they'll remember that. So I like to take the kids bike riding, and it's just me and the two kids, and we go bike riding. We just kind of just go adventuring, riding down laneways of where we are, and we'll get a donut or something like that. And I feel like my kids will remember that stuff. So, but yeah, it's hard. Being a parent's hard. I think you probably want to make sure that your relationship with your partner is really good before you enter into having kids, because kids don't make it easier. Like you add a bit of sleep deprivation and a bunch of things that you're just guessing your way around it. You don't know what you're doing when you're a parent. We're constantly guessing. So like you add all of that kind of stress into your life. If your relationship's already not great, parenting's not going to make it easier. It's going to make it miles harder. So like from our relationship, like Elise and I have a really, really good relationship, but it's strained at times because of children. But I wouldn't change it. I love it. I love every bit about it. But there is, it's bloody cool. It's stressful. But the reward and the benefit of children, in my mind, feels like they outweigh the downsides to it, and the whether it's lack of sleep or lack of free time and stuff like that. But it gives you a purpose. I said that before. There's no time to sort of self-think when you have kids. You kind of get up and you've got 3 mouths to brush or whatever it is, however many kids you've got. You've got teeth to brush. You've got everyone's breakfast to do. You've got clothing. You've got to get them, try and instill good thoughts into their minds and good skills into them. And then you scramble off to work and you come home and you've got to do the closing ceremony in the evenings. Like it's busy and it's hard.
Another from the outside perspective comment here, but it seemed as though you had a very good relationship with your partner going into having kids.
Yeah. Well, I remember don't get me wrong, you still have, you can still have fights in your relationship be good.
Of course.
So, we still had strains at different points in time, but our relationship is and was really good. But if I was going to give advice to, I guess I've witnessed divorces across my friendship group, and they're hard. Parenting young kids in a separated relationship is obviously incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
In so many facets, I think, whether it's the logistics of kind of getting the kids to and between houses or financially supporting 2 homes and how you manage that, there's just a lot of stuff that goes on. So I think, I was very lucky. And it was purposeful, I met Elise on the dance floor at Boutique, and when Boutique nightclub, and for those in Melbourne, they probably know that. I met when I was nearly 26 and she was nearly 22, and it was a good age, it was a good age to kind of, in my mind, it was a good age to meet. We'd seen and done a bit, but also we were kind of ready to settle down. We were able to progress things and do travel and things before we had children and not have to do things in a rush. I think, if you can meet your life partner in your 20s, that's amazing. Obviously some people can't do that, but we were able to do that and have, I think if you can have kids when your peers are having kids, that's cool too. So we were lucky enough to have our kids when, a lot of our friends were having kids, and that makes it easier because if you have them a bit early, you feel like you're missing out on stuff. You feel like you're missing out on some travel, or your friends are doing stuff as a sort of a young couple, and kids make all of that sort of stuff quite challenging. So we were lucky that we were able to have kids with a big group of our peers and grow up as parents together, and our kids grow up together. So that's been really cool.
How old were you there?
Yeah, I reckon we were 27, maybe 23, okay. I reckon.
So you've been together a bit?
Yeah, been together maybe a little less. But, good times, it's keeping a relationship happy and healthy is takes work. And, it takes work, but it's good. It's cool. So, we're probably...
I'm a bit worried by... You talked about having kids around your peers and stuff. I've struggled just being the way that I am to sort of settle down with someone throughout my whole 20s.
I'm probably reflecting what's worked for me. What works for me in this instance isn't going to work for you because you're in your early 30s, and I'm saying, well, you should meet your life partner in your 20s. Not should, but it's nice if for me, it was nice that I did. You just have, everyone has their own paths, I think... I'm I remember thinking to myself, I'm really enjoying being single. I was living with a couple of friends. That was awesome. They were awesome times.
Is that Nick one of them?
Yeah, Nick Drake.
Yeah, I remember seeing photos of him.
Yeah, Nick Drake, Theo Code, James Newton. You know, we had a really...
Nick is someone I saw a lot.
Yeah, he's a good man.
Yeah,
They're some of my best mates and still are my best mates. And we've been friends since we were 13, 14, 15 years old. And, you know, I still, you know, there's a few friends I speak to most days. I still find the time, whether I'm on the road on the way home or whether it's doing some exercise with them. They're some of my best mates and they're fond memories. So, you know, doing that stuff was great. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm pretty happy being single and enjoying myself. And then someone popped into my life and that was the right timing. So it'll come when it comes. You know, you've obviously got this thing right now that you're you know 110% into, and there might not be space in your life for someone who's going to take your energy right now. But you know, I mean, having kids also isn't the be all and end all. So it's not my path just worked for me.
Of course. Is there anything we haven't spoken about today that you'd want to add in?
Nah, I mean, we were supposed to do this and you were in real estate and we were kind of competitors and it didn't really make a lot of sense at the time. As in it made sense that we couldn't do it because obviously working in competition with each other, it wouldn't have maybe worked that well. So it's good we've connected. You know, you've talked to a lot of people within property and real estate kind of senses and a lot of other things. So, you know, hopefully it's been semi-enlightening for someone.
Mate. Yeah, I love stuff like this because I think I love doing chats with people that, not that we're equal, but like I sort of feel like there's a lot of comparisons.
There's a
to our
resonation.
story. There's a resonation. Yeah, it's a right word.
We resonate with each other and
yeah.
And when you and I met before you even started in real estate, and I think you came out. I think I was on holidays, and you came out to the office and had met with Ben Cooper.
Yeah.
And you know that didn't eventuate, but you know that was you were probably 24 or 23 then or something like that. So you know we've crossed paths over the years and always have a good chat. So it's good. It's nice to catch up.
I pissed you off once. What did I do again? Cold called someone or something.
Maybe.
I reckon I pissed you off something.
Nah. Well, I don't think about that stuff. My mum always said, "Wake up the next day, and it's a new day." So I don't hold too many grudges.
Yeah. It's a good way to be, mate. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks.
So good.
Cool.
That was really good.
Yeah.
That flowed really well. Hour and a half.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. That flowed super well. That was really good.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Good one.
Happy?
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome.